This time, I want to call to order the work session for the Carroll County Board of Education, July the 15th, 2024. And at this time, I want to welcome all of our visitors. We appreciate y'all coming out tonight. At this time, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, if you'll join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Earlier in the afternoon, we did have a student tribunal appeal, and I was not able to be there. So I'm going to ask Dr. Bernice Brooks, who moderated it, to talk with us.
Thank you, Mrs. Marr. Excuse me. Our date is May 15th, 24. After reviewing,
July 15th.
oh, Ms. Cloud.
I actually did put 5.
Original.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for catching me.
After reviewing the records of the disciplinary tribunal hearing of Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, and providing for representation of all parties concerning student 95550, it is the decision of the Carroll County Board of Education to uphold the decision of the disciplinary tribunal. Bernice Brooks, board member.
Thank you. At this time, we will go ahead and ask Dr. Jessica Ainsworth to talk about student achievement.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Ms. Morris and other members of the board, this evening we have a CTAE plan of work update and our Perkins 5 local plan application. At our spring board advance, Ms. Clayton spoke to you guys about her plan of work for this year. So we're going to bring in a specific student and one of our CCA principals to provide an update. First, I'll turn over to Ms. Clayton, and she can update, Ms. Drummond. Ms. Drummond will go ahead and update us with our CTA plan of work, and we have a student treat this afternoon. Ms. Drummond?
Good evening. Thank you all for this opportunity to spotlight our CTA programs and one of our recent CTAE graduates. She's here tonight to share her experience from the healthcare science pathway. Healthcare is actually our #1 requested program throughout the 10 programs that we offer, and that's great that it's highly sought after because it is also a high demand field in the state of Georgia as well as the West Georgia area. And now to talk to you about her experience, Ms. Alyssa Easter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Alyssa Easter, and I'm 18 years old, and I'm a recent graduate of Villa Rica High School. It is my honor to be here tonight on behalf of you guys, the Carroll County Board of Education. From a young age, I have always known I wanted to be in the medical field. I was about 18 months old, and I was diagnosed with dextrocardia with situs inversus totalis. So that sounds like a bunch of medical jumbo, but what that means is my heart and all my organs are on the opposite side of my body. So luckily, I've lived my entire life. I'm healthy. But in late August 19, my family's world was changed forever. We woke up one morning. We thought it was just going to be a typical morning, getting up, getting ready for school. And I have 2 younger brothers. They're 8 and 11 now. Well, at the time, he was 3. And me and my mom woke up to the most terrifying sight of our entire life. He was face down, he was blue, and he was unresponsive. And it comes to find out, if we would have found him maybe 5 minutes later, he unfortunately would have passed away, but luckily that's not the case. But he was diagnosed with epilepsy, and that's kind of when I was like, wow. And 2019, it was my 8th grade year, and I was like, okay, I'm about to go into high school, what's going to happen? And then the world shuts down, and you're like, okay. So you add that on top of it, and then you add on you go from a middle school, so Bay Springs, I went to Villa Rica, they combine, and it's a very scary time. But going back to my brother, when I arrived at the hospital, when I watched the medical staff quickly and efficiently care for my brother, it exhibited to me exactly what career choice I wanted to pursue. So finding out that there was a healthcare pathway that could help me jumpstart my medical career by giving me a chance to earn my CNA license by the end of high school gave me the encouragement to pursue the career that I've been longing for since I was a little girl. This opportunity was given to me and high school students from my county from the North College and Career Academy. The class is 2 years long and ultimately ends up in one completing a science credit needed for graduation. So I did the anatomy, and then I also got my CPR certification and my CNA license. So basically, a CNA can work anywhere from a hospital, a nursing home, long-term care, stuff like that. But to be qualified as a CNA, a person must complete 85 hours of training, with 24 hours being hands-on training, typically completed in a nursing home. They must also take a 70-question exam and complete a clinical skills evaluation. And we did that in the same day. And it was somebody that like watched us and observed us and everything. And then they pick 5 skills out of a list of 22, so you have no idea what you're gonna get. And the average cost of that program can be $1,000. So looking back now, knowing that it's required for medical, to go to nursing school, it's like the best thing in the entire world that I didn't have to pay for that, because life is expensive right now, I'm just gonna be honest. So basically, okay. So once I completed my CNA, which was this past year, I knew that I wanted to begin working in the career field. But the only thing that was holding me back was my age, and then I needed to be graduated from high school. So that's where I bring in Tanner Connections. Tanner Connections provided me with an opportunity that changed my life forever. So my time in the program, it was amazing. That's like was my 100% confirmation. That's what I wanted to do. So I rotated different floors of the hospital. I was typically on the rotation for about 2 weeks, and I went 3 hours a day for 4 days a week. And it just showed me exactly what Tanner does for our community on each floor of the hospital. And on top of that, I was actually able to be hands-on and complete the direct patient care before even graduating high school. So at the end of the program, a mock interview is set up with the Tanner's hiring team. There was a different department manager from each floor, and then there was one overall recruiter. That is the person that, tries to get everybody to come work at Tanner, and I was placed with him. So I was scared. He was the only guy in the room, and I was like, okay, like, what do I do? And I sat down, and he told me, he's like, where are you interested in working at? So I said, the emergency room. So he sent my resumes to the department managers of each unit. So little did I know I was going to get a call from both Carrollton and Villarica emergency rooms asking for an interview. After completing both interviews, I got a call back on my high school graduation day from the same recruiter who did my mock interview, offering me a job at Villarica emergency room. And that's also the exact same brother that saved my life 5 years ago. The exact same hospital that saved my brother's life 5 years ago. So I'm now working as a nurse tech in the emergency room while continuing my education at West Georgia Technical College. I actually did over 25 credit hours, I would say, of dual enrollment while I was in high school. So I only have about a year left until I go into the nursing program and apply. So I plan on getting my associate's degree, and then I'm going to bridge into bachelor's, and then I might start looking at like nurse practitioner and stuff like that. But I also really like the NICU, so I might stay there. As I bring this speech to a close, I really just want to specifically thank you guys. You're the reason that people my age and the students have this opportunity. A lot of people, they struggle, they don't know what to do, and then having this CCA pathway and seeing all these options is a lot. You just feel a sense of relief over your body knowing that, you can have an option to do something. And even if it's not exactly what you want to do, at least you tested it out and you didn't waste a bunch of money and time, And so I just really wanted to thank you guys. And Ms. Reyes, I don't think she's here today, but she pours her heart into this program. She works long days, or wakes up in the morning, stays after school, and I wouldn't be who I am today without her. So obtaining my CNA certification before finishing high school profoundly changed my life for the better, opening up new opportunities and giving me a clear direction for my future. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't have a question, but you should be commended. Everything that we talk about with the CCA and what we want to see with our graduates, you just defined all that in one little deal there. I commend you for being so far ahead of where you could be and getting a jump start on life by going through this program. And what a testimony and story about your brother. It's a really good job.
I just want to say I commend you for the early entrance into the program. And of course, I had a daughter who was similar. She went in to do some things early. In fact, she was one of the candy stripers, and because Villa Rica was very small, they allowed her to do some things that they didn't, well, we're not gonna talk about that. Well, anyway, she's now a midwife, so I commend you for what you're doing and keep up the good work.
Thank you. So I actually completed the agriculture pathway too. So I did that from freshman and sophomore. I didn't have the choice to be in it, but it probably was the greatest choice that somebody's ever made for me because I learned how to weld. I mean, it's nothing that I would, looking back now, that I would want to do for the rest of my life. But Mr. Jacobs, he was awesome too. He taught me lots of stuff. And so that's when I decided. And he was the best supporter when I was like, look, I want to finish your pathway, but I really want to go to the nursing pathway too. So.
Okay.
commend you. My granddaughter is very similar to you. She'll be 20 in February. She's working at the emergency room in Carrollton. So you may know Maddie Morris.
Yeah, I
But
do
it is
not.
hard work, and you have to have a passion for it. You have to care about people to work in that field. And I just look forward to seeing your name on the door somewhere because I know you're going to make it.
Thank you.
And, you know, just be proud of yourself and take care of yourself. And thank you for doing this. And I wish this was contagious, that a lot of other students could catch what you've got.
Thank you guys so much.
Anybody else comments?
I just love your smile, too. I would say you would brighten my, just make me feel better by coming in and you're beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
Ms. Morris, my last item is our Perkins 5 grant. As part of our grant requirements, the local Board of Education has to provide some support for CTAE. You'll see our plan, and in our budget that has already been approved by the board, we more than exceed our contribution. So what I do recommend is that this be placed on the consent agenda for Thursday night.
Any objection to placing it on the consent agenda?
No.
All right, done. Thank you. All right, this time I'll ask Mr. Cowart to do the stakeholder engagement.
Of course, we're excited tonight to share some information regarding our recent leadership kickoff event, where we brought together over 100 school and district level administrators to get prepared and ready to start this coming school year. To talk about it this year, we thought we'd do something a little different. We have invited two of our brand-new leaders in the district. These people are not just new administrators, they are new administrators in Carroll County. So both of these people, this is their first time with us. And so we have with us Ms. Heather Hart, who's the new principal at Whitesburg Elementary School, and Mr. Anthony Finley, who's the new assistant principal at Mount Zion High School. So Heather, if you'll go first, we're going to ask you to just share from your perspective, what is it you experienced? What was it like? What did it help you do to be a leader in Carroll County?
Yeah, so for 2 days, we had the opportunity to collaborate with one another, to build this sense of community, not only with your table and who you were sitting with, but you're also your admin team. But there's also this sense of like challenge from Mr. Cowart and Dr. Ainsworth as they laid out our vision for the district and how we as schools would align that to that vision, as well as there was a lot of celebrations. There was a lot of us cheering each other on for everything that they accomplished in previous years, as well as some individual time for us to really sit down and think about what is our personal growth and development and what does that look like, and providing us with the opportunity to really spend some time in honing in who we are and who we want to be as leaders in Carroll County. And so when you think about those 2 days, it was the perfect blueprint for an admin because it allowed us to take all of those goodness and the structure that they put in place for us for those 2 days and really just replicate that process. Because when you think about leadership kickoff, it's all about getting excited for the year to come. And so that's definitely how I left from our leadership kickoff time together, and what I can't wait to do in terms of pouring into our staff at Whitesburg Elementary. So it's a little bit about our time.
All right.
Welcome to Carroll County.
Good evening.
Get in.
Good evening. So I'll start off by saying this is the 5th leadership kickoff I've been a part of. My first one here. It's the best one I've ever been a part of. I absolutely loved it. Learned a few things. There's some things that, you know, there was a good balance of having fun, but in the same token, getting the work done.
Yeah,
It really pushed my thinking. I like to say all of our thinking. It's just a couple of things that stood out to me in particular was change comes before improvement, which requires deep thought and reflection, and to actually calendarize time to do that. All right, and I think that's super important. That really stuck with me. Also, that improvement, when you want to improve something, it requires some focus. So Mr. Coward spoke a lot about some positions we created, some initiatives that are going on that are really focusing on some of those things that we want to improve. And obviously the theme of Elevate came up. And what really stuck out with me was I saw the graduation rate of 97%. And I've had some roles where a bunch of different roles and even gotten a chance to be behind the scenes for some of these conversations. And what really stuck with me is the G+. So not just the fact that we're celebrating that we're graduating 97% of our kids, but what are we doing to make sure that they're ready to be successful when they leave us to be employed, enlisted, or enrolled? So I thought it was an amazing event, and I was really happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
All right.
Questions for Heather or Anthony?
I actually had one question. The guy that spoke, he was the guy that was at the school board deal in Savannah last year. And boy, he was just very motivated. And so I did see that there was a tricycle race I thought might have been rigged, but I just wasn't real sure about that part. Now, I don't know.
No workman comp claim.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Thank you very, very much, and we're excited to have both of you on our team.
Okay.
For being here.
That's all I have, Ms. Morris.
All right, at this time, we'll move ahead with organizational excellence. Mr. Glenn Harden.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. I want to start out by giving a quick facility and construction update. I'll start with our operations center. It continues to be exciting. It continues to move forward. We have all our departments that are moving over there, continuing to work very hard in preparing for that move. I can tell you that we anticipate our school nutrition moving over to this new area in mid-August. And
Wow.
the alternative program, we're looking at late September. And then our transportation department, because we have state inspections in September, it would be in our best interest to move over during our October break. So Mr. Bissell is working close with his department in making that move. So we're really excited about that and look forward to that move. As always, if you want a tour of that or to see that, just let me know, and I'll make that happen for you. Moving to Bay Springs, again, I actually was able to kind of get on site and see this today. We're anticipating no issue inside the building with the renovations and turning the weight room back into 2 classrooms. We're on schedule to have that open for open house. And then we anticipate our weight room that you see here on the left to open up mid-September. So our weight classes and working with Mr. Long will be in the gym to start the year, but we feel good about that as well as Mr. Long does. Central High School, this is one of the construction areas that got off on the right foot and didn't run into many issues on site and continues to be planning to be open house to be ready. We actually are going to do a walkthrough tomorrow with Mr. Beers and the administration to kind of make sure that we're ready for that open house. Moving to Villa Rica High School, I don't know if anyone has had a chance to be on the Villa Rica site, but spending 7 years there myself, it's extremely exciting walking in the cafeteria area just to see the work and how open it is, and it's just gonna be something the kids are really, and the staff's really going to enjoy, because it's gonna be a lot of cool features in there. And, we're on track still to have the cafeteria, the office area, and the classroom renovation in the 400 hall, is gonna be fine for open house. And remember, we continue to anticipate being open the additional classrooms, still in October. Mr. Badowski and, has been working with this team to make sure that they're ready for open house as well, with not having those classrooms. And because of some of the stuff that we did as a district, with the enrollment changes, it's gonna allow for that not to be pressing on us immediately coming out of the gate. So we feel good about that. And then finally, the CCA North, we're still about mid-September there. We're still on track for that date. We did have to pull off a few workers to go in and help at the Villa Rica to make sure the cafeteria was done, but they are still on track for that September opening as well. Any questions about the facility or new constructions? All right, thank you. Next, Ms. Morris, we have our annual Family Connections contract that we work with every year. Remember, we serve as a financial agent for the Carroll County Connections, and this contract just covers them to pay their salary for their executive director for a period of July 1st through June 30th each year. And Carroll County Family Connections is part of the statewide Georgia Family Connections that helps our communities, and we collaborate with them, the well-being of our children and our families in each of our communities. So I'll ask that that be put on our consent agenda for Thursday.
Any opposition to that?
No.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and then finally, as you'll see on the e-board, we have our FY '25, continue to have our field trip and fundraising request, that we also asked to be on the consent agenda for Thursday.
Any opposition to that?
Could I ask a question? You've got fundraising and field trip on the same line. Are they on these sheets, or you just have fundraising? and
Yeah,
not
so
field?
one of the changes that we made is we combined our field trips and our fundraising request as one line item.
Okay.
And what you see there is
Just
the
fundraising.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So how will you note field trips?
I guess there's none this time, is what it is.
Yes, no field trip requested this time. Now, there'll probably be a lot for next month with football and stuff, but a lot of them try to put them in May. As soon as we have the schedules, they're put in.
Oh, okay. I
Now,
just,
are they all these new? Because some of them look like we've already approved them.
exactly.
Mr. Miller, I'd have to check on that to
But,
see if there are duplicates on there.
Maybe not.
Yeah, one of the things I saw that looked like a duplication was 50,000. Kind of concerned about
I would
that.
definitely check that.
Okay.
Dr. Brooks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Harding.
Thank you.
All right, this time we'll move ahead with the financial report, and I'll ask Ms. Delene Wolf to present this.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. So for the May financial report, to start, we have the month-to-date and year-to-date revenues and expenditures for each of the four funds. Moving on to page 2 of the report, this drills down into the general fund financial report, where revenues were $13.5 million, expenditures were $17.6 million. After adjustments, fund balance is $37.7 million, with $5.2 million in outstanding purchase orders. Moving on to SLOSS 5, this fund is winding down. The expenditures were $196.4 thousand with a value of $17.6 thousand. For SPLOST 6, receipts were $1.8 million, which is a 6.3% increase over the same month last year. And expenditures were $2.9 million with a balance of $9 million for the scheduled projects. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the financial report.
Questions, anybody?
Next, I have an update on the 2024 preliminary tax digest and millage rate analysis. So for the preliminary 2024 tax digest, I'm going to start with the analysis sheet in the upper left-hand corner and then move clockwise across the 4 tables within the analysis. The digest increased approximately 9.7% from $3.5 billion to $3.9 billion for a change of $339.4 million. This increase was split almost 50-50 between growth from reassessment and then growth from other changes, new and improved properties. The rollback rate is calculated to be 16.259 mils. This is a 4.56% difference over the current millage rate of 17 mils. Moving to the table to the right, there is 3 scenarios shown and the impact on the local investment per learner for each of the scenarios. The first scenario is 17 mils, which is the current millage rate. Then 16.6 mils, which is the millage rate that would balance the 24-25 fiscal year budget. And then the rollback millage rate of 16.259 mils. And the difference for each of those on the net investment per learner. Immediately below that is the impact on the district's budget, ranging from a surplus of $1.5 million to a deficit of $1.2 million across the 3 scenarios. We've updated our analysis of how the district compares to districts of a similar size, specifically from 10 to 20,000 in FTE. So based on 2023 information, Carroll County Schools is the 4th fastest growing district out of that group of 19, and it has the 4th lowest digest per learner out of that group. Moving to the chart on the lower right quadrant, looking at the impact that the digest and millage rate has on state funding. When the district's digest increases, the state funding decreases because the local 5 mil share increases. That is estimated to be a $1.7 million decrease. There's a 2-year lag before that is seen, so that would be seen in fiscal year 27. This is in addition to the $1.7 million decrease that is estimated for FY 26 due to the digest increases from last year. Equalization is always very complicated to estimate and is based on a variety of factors, primarily combining a district's wealth, which is the digest per FTE, as well as the local effort, which is measured by the millage rate. I have two ranges calculated here, a minimum and kind of a low and a high range there. The minimum range is based on the FY25 equalization funding. What would that impact look like? So that would be a decrease of ranging from $647,000 to $1.2 million. $15.5 million is the district's equalization funding for this upcoming fiscal year, FY25. The state law requires a minimum of 14 mills to be eligible for equalization funding. And that law says that that would be actual or equivalent. For Carroll County Schools for this upcoming fiscal year, the effective millage rate is 14.56%. It's lower than the actual millage rate. And looking ahead for the next year, I would anticipate that the effective millage rate would fall below 14 mills. Historically, lawmakers and at the state level, it has been interpreted to be one or the other. The law says actual or equivalent. Yeah, I can't predict how it will be handled in the future. Historically, it's been one or the other. So I wanted to share that information because at this time, we don't know how it will be handled in the future. For FY25, for this upcoming year, there were about 18% of districts that fell in that category, with about half of them having a effective millage rate that was below 14 mills and an actual that was above. And then there were approximately 9% that had the opposite scenario, where the effective millage rate was above 14 mills and the actual was below. And all of those districts received, that were eligible, received equalization funding. Again, I can't tell you how that would be handled in the future, and that is why there is a larger range in that equalization estimate than typical.
Can you have one that's both ways? I can have one system that's above and not, and then the other, that doesn't compute.
Yes, it is,
I guess I'd have to know how they calculate it.
yes, it is driven by the calculation, and it is driven by what is included in the calculation. One thing that benefits some districts is that the state includes revenues from title ad valorem taxes in the equation, but those revenues don't have anything to do with the millage rate. And that's just built into the state's formula, but that is to the benefit of districts that the formula is designed that way. On the other side, some districts like Carroll County have exemptions that exceed the state exemptions. For example, in Carroll County, seniors do not, eligible seniors do not pay any school taxes. The state exemption for seniors is significantly lower than what is done locally. So it's those two things that, can impact the formula and that calculation. Additionally, the third thing that impacts that is that the state's calculations are based on the fair market value, not the digest value that is available when the millage rate is adopted. So for example, if the sales ratio shows a higher fair market value than the digest, which was the case in 2022 digest, which is what is impacting our FY25 funding, then that also results in an effective millage rate that is below the actual millage rate. Okay. Moving to the chart in the
Sorry I
lower
asked.
left corner.
Got her.
All I know is I feel like I'm gonna be asked to make a decision on something I know nothing about.
The chart on the lower left corner shows the average change in based between the current millage rate of 17 mils versus the rollback rate. For the average non-homestead property, that impact is $66.69 per year. For the average homestead property, that impact is $93.37. Looking at the timeline for the adoption of the millage rate, on Thursday, July 18th, the board is scheduled to propose a millage rate and approve a tentative rate. After that, we would prepare the advertisements that are required, submit those for publication with an expected publication date of July 23rd. Then, followed by public hearings if applicable, and then lastly, in August, the board would set the final millage rate. If the proposed millage rate is higher than the rollback rate, then 3 public hearings would be required to allow for public input. Additionally, there are a couple of additional advertisements that are required if the proposed rate exceeds the rollback rate. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question. How is this rollback going to impact education from the instructional perspective? Or is it not going to?
Okay, so for the impact, I can share the impact on the district's total, on the total budget. With the rollback rate, it would increase the budgeted deficit by a small amount. So the net deficit would be 1.2%, which is insignificant to the district's total budget.
In other words, if I'm understanding that right, we could possibly accomplish the budget as it stands by taking that 1.2 out of our reserves possibly? Is that,
Yes.
that's basically what we're saying for that 1 year?
Yes, and the reserves represent, prior year state and local revenues.
Okay, refresh my memories. What are we supposed to have as a fund balance?
So for the fund balance, I'll pull the board policy and give you that specific range. But typically, it's in the 10 to 15%
Okay.
range for a minimum fund balance.
Okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, then our strategic waiver, take that cap off.
Does.
So Carroll County doesn't have a cap.
Yes, there is no legal cap in the fund balance percentage.
So we can just soar, huh? Okay.
I think if you look at the last several years, we've gotten down, it looks like around 14 million as our low point before we get new tax revenues in. So that's really the point you want to look at, I think, is what's the ultimate, how low does it get during the year before you get new revenue?
What we were always taught back in the day, so to speak, was you like to have 2 months of payroll banked, so that when you're at that low point, if something went wrong, that
You would have to do a TAN, excuse me.
Yeah.
And typically, the revenues start coming in January.
No, November, December.
We get them that early?
Yeah.
I didn't know if we got them
November's
that
our
quick.
our low point, yeah.
If you look at the things she just went over with the financial report a few minutes ago, about, it really jumps up in November. I got one question to throw in the mix. It's not necessarily for this year, but it's coming probably, if it gets passed, the House Bill 581, and if they cap that at 3%, you know, I think, can't we opt out of that and stick with the same?
In fact, and I appreciate you bringing it up, Mr. Cater, that's probably the next meeting or the next, we were going to preemptively try to have a discussion with the board and make sure everybody's on the same page about what it is. It will be on the November ballot for, you know, to be voted on by all the citizens about whether or not to do that. But then even if it's approved on the ballot in November, as Mr. Cater says, each district has the option to opt out if they so choose. Now, there's several hoops you have to jump through if you opt out. But we'll do a presentation so that we can clearly lay all that out for the board. And we feel like we need to do that, not in November, we need to do that probably August or September to give y'all plenty of time to digest through that.
All right, more questions, comments? Now's the time to get all your information, because we will be voting on this tentative Thursday night.
Ms. Morris, I'd like to ask Mr. Harding a question.
Sure.
But I want to preface it with a narrative. I was speaking to a young lady who has children in Temple, and her comment to me was, why is it that we don't have the big screens at the athletic complex where they play softball? The reason she asked that was, she said, I would be willing to get sponsors so that we don't have to come out of our pockets for funds for the softball or any of the other athletic groups. Can you look into that for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now, is that across from the high school where you're talking about, those fields?
Yeah, big screens for the athletic fields where there's softball and all of that.
Talking about like the high school level or middle school and?
High school. As an initiative.
Do we have some anywhere, or is it?
No, I don't think we have any.
We have on our soccer and football and track facilities.
Yeah.
And then in our
Gymnasium.
5 gyms, yes.
And for football, yeah, okay, all right. She was asking.
All right, any other questions or comments concerning the setting the millage rate? Well, if there's nothing else, we'll move ahead then. At this time, we'll ask for continuous improvement by Mr. Jared Griffiths.
Good evening, Board. Our annual teacher induction program is next week, Monday through Wednesday. We have approximately 170 attendees this year. All board members are invited to attend Monday and eat lunch with us and our participants. You'll be introduced at 11:55 in the auditorium if you can attend, and we ask that you please arrive by 11:50 and come straight to the auditorium. Lunch will begin at 12:10, and I've placed a tip schedule for you at your seats tonight so that you can see what we have in store for our new employees next week. We have much planned and welcome our new people. Much planned to welcome our new people to Carroll County Schools. Also, the updated policies for GARH, JGCD, and JGEB, sorry. It's a mouthful of letters. Were presented at the June 17th, 2024 board meeting and have been lying on the table for public comment. At this time, no public comment has been given. We recommend these policies to be placed on the consent agenda for Thursday night.
Any opposition to that? Okay,
This concludes my report, Ms. Morris.
all right. Any questions of him or comments? I want to say thank you for keeping us updated on this. Everything is changing so fast, and so it's really important that we keep this updated. All right, this time I'm going to ask if we have anybody here to speak. Do we have anybody for public input? Nobody? Okay, we'll move ahead. Business items,
We have none tonight. We'll have, of course, the millage rate Thursday night.
okay. And let's review the agenda for the July 18th meeting. Any changes to it?
Clarification, Ms. Maynard, are we at the PAC or in here Thursday night? Okay. And I would let the board know, I will not be at the meeting Thursday night. I'll be out of town, so Dr. Ainsworth will serve in my role at that point in time.
All right, at this time, I guess I need a motion for someone to recommend that the board meet in executive session to discuss the future acquisition of real estate, safety and security, personnel, pending or threatened litigation, and recommendations that are exempt from disclosure under the Open Records Act.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right,
Ms. Morris, I believe if we won't stay in here, we can make it pretty quick if that's okay with the
okay,
board.
that's fine, yeah.
Dwayne, if you'll make sure we get sound turned off.
Raise your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. Okay. Do we have a motion for the recommendation that the board approve the personnel actions as presented by the superintendent?
So be.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. And do we have any board member comments? Okay. Well, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. See you Thursday at